What's up, guys? We're back with another Power Rangers review, another 3016 scale review, and you know, I thought I was going to be content with just that Green Ranger that I got a few weeks back. I'd be happy with one, you know, one of my favorite Rangers. I'll be happy with him on a shelf somewhere in a display, one, you know, kind of one-off, unique Power Rangers figure. But that didn't last too long, so we're taking a look at two today, and yeah, I'm inching ever closer to getting, I guess, all of them. So we're taking a look at the Black Ranger and the Blue Ranger when it comes to MMPR, and these guys come in the same kind of box that the Green Ranger came with. So that sort of slimline box, it's very form-fitting for such a big figure. Again, these guys do come in a larger 6-pack. So it gives you all 5 core Rangers and the Green Ranger. But if you're getting the individuals like this, they've got their own themed packaging. So the front of the box has got a shot of the Ranger within. So, you know, like this one, we've got the Black Ranger with the power coin on the front. You've got the Ranger logo on the side panels. And then the back of the box has a really cool piece of artwork with the lightning bolt motif with the Ranger, you know, inside the box within. And then you've got a flap here, so you can pop this open and you've got a shot of your Ranger on the interior, and then you've got the Ranger that's in the box inside this big window. So if you wanted to keep him in the box for some crazy reason, you could do it, but we're not, so let's pull him out and take a look. And here we go, out of the package, our 3016 scale Black Ranger and Blue Ranger. So these guys are, I mean, they're obviously going to be very similar to the Green Ranger. You know, if you saw that video, you know mostly how this is going to play out. But I kind of wanted to do these simply because of the fact that, well, they are a little bit different. They offer some really cool changes as far as weaponry goes. And these guys don't have a shield either. So they are the more standard figures when it comes to the line. Of course, there's a ton of reuse across this line. You know, basically there's a male body and kind of like a female body. So these two are essentially the same outside of color and then accessories and little deco hits. You know, they have different morpher coins. They have different helmets. They obviously have different weapons. But for the most part, overwhelmingly the exact same kind of figure. So let's see what they can do, see how they move around. I'm just gonna pick one. We'll work with Zach, or I don't know, he can be Adam, I suppose, if you want him to be, and we'll see what these guys are capable of. So as far as articulation goes, they are pretty mobile. There are a few areas on these things that I'm not the happiest with, and I kind of went over these in the Green Ranger video as well. They do have really, really nice head movement though. So like all the way up and then all the way down, and you've got really crazy, crazy tilt. I mean, there's a ton of range on these heads. Arms go out. There are a lot of ratcheted joints on these guys, so they go out pretty far. You know, they can rotate, but you have to watch them because, of course, you know, fabric. So that is going to get in the way. That's always a concern with figures like this. You do have some shimmy side to side. There is a bicep swivel in there, so you got to work with it, but you can make it work. And then you've got double jointed elbows that go really, really far. One of the big areas that I'm not the biggest fan of these guys is their hands. So they're ball hinges. So you've got rotation all the way around, and you've got hinge any direction you want, but the way they're designed is that the glove cuffs are a separate piece, and they're molded in this very specific way to kind of make them flow into the hand, to make it look as seamless as possible. It's not seamless by any means, but it tries. It just gets in the way. It very much prohibits articulation in some instances, and I have a lot of problems with the hands like kind of popping off if you move them too far. So you've got to watch those. The torso, he can go backwards, forward, but they don't really stay. They go about that far forward. They do have a little bit of tilt side to side, and then you've got some rotation in here as well. Again, you're never going to get them to go all the way around or anything like that because clothing, so that's always a thing. You've always got to watch that. Legs are ratcheted, hips are ratcheted, I should say. So they'll go out and then they kick forward. And they stay pretty well. I've not had really many issues with them. You can hear the squeak in there. They'll kick backwards slightly. There is a thigh twist up in there, and it does work. I mean, it's helpful too, but it's something that, you know, you just don't really see it. Knees are ratcheted. They're a little squeaky, very squeaky. And then you've got the same kind of issue down here at the feet that we have on the hands. And this is by far my biggest pain point with these figures, is that they have the same kind of system. So it's a ball peg, but there's not a lot of movement potential here. And like sometimes you look at them wrong and it's just going to pop off. it's not like a big deal because they just go right back on, but you've still got to mess with them. So they are a thing. They do have really good range in many instances. Like, they've got nice rocker, but see, I mean, I tried slightly too hard and it popped off. It's just more of an annoyance in many ways than anything else. I'd say the hands are probably more annoying than the feet, but overall, these things do get into really nice poses. It does take a little bit of work to make it happen, and I don't want to say learning curve because it's not exactly difficult, but if you're not used to this stuff, like I'm not used to fully clothed 1/6 scale figures. I'm just not. So there's a lot of stuff here that is just a little bit different for me still. Where these guys truly shine, though, is undoubtedly just the design, the aesthetic, and in many instances, the cleanliness of these figures. Now, it sounds kind of weird to say it that way, but these figures are like just flawless when it comes to execution in many ways. The suits are so well done. And again, you know, I said this in my Green Ranger review. I have multiple suits of Power Ranger cosplay. I have a red, a white, and a green. This material feels like the stuff I have worn. And I know it's a weird thing to say when I'm reviewing these, but it's this stuff, and it very much is that same kind of spandex material that is very snug, very form-fitting, and flows with the figure and the way it moves. There are a few things that I don't like about these when it comes to how these gloves and these boot cuffs work in conjunction with articulation, but they look great. I mean, the colors are incredibly saturated and vibrant. That white is super bright. The blue and the black, respectively, here, of course, are really nicely done. Everything's very clean and crisp on those diamonds. But this shine on this spandex is really something else. I mean, I know you can see him kind of lighting up here, especially Billy in his blue outfit here. That blue really pops. The belts are incredibly well done. They've even got the cover on the back of the clip. So there's just like, you know, a little plastic clip back there that holds it together. But they've got this here to sort of make it as seamless as possible. You've got your holster for your blade blaster, which we'll talk about that here shortly. The morphers, done up correctly, right colors. They've got the appropriate power coins on them, and despite being small, there is a lot of detail packed into this thing here. So I do really like that quite a bit. And then the actual, like, I guess it's more like a vinyl finish for the diamonds on the chest are really nicely done. It's something that you don't exactly see a lot of on the Green Ranger because, of course, it's covered. But here, you get to see them, and they're very striking in their color because, of course, they pop against that black or the blue, and they're a different finish too. So they've got kind of a shimmer, got like a shiny look to them. It's not exactly the same metallic look that you get with the fabric itself, but it's a different kind of sheen and shine to help kind of help break them up almost. And then, of course, you know, the big thing is ultimately the helmets here rather. I think they look great. I think the Black Ranger's helmet is probably my favorite of the few that I've gotten so far. I think it looks very well done. The lines on it are all clean and crisp because there's a lot of line work on the Black Ranger helmet in particular because of the trunk on the Mastodon. You've got the gold eyes up there as well, and then those silver horns that come down around the visor just look great. I do think that the Blue Ranger's helmet, something about it looks a little bit weird to me at times. I think it's the shape of the visor kind of throws me off, but I do believe it's very much correct at the same time. Line work, again, is really well done. The gold, the silver accents, and these just look nice. Like, ultimately, that's what it comes down to. And I kind of said this in the Green Ranger video, is that when I think of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, well, Power Rangers in general, I think of, you know, Japanese suit actors in these costumes. Smaller, slender, very athletic people that are not super bulky. You know, I said this specifically, it's not Jason David Frank in a Green Ranger costume. That's not what you're buying here. You're buying very much a slender frame, which corresponds to, you know, the source material. These guys were not huge, and I think it shows here, and I'm happy with the fact that they are kind of using the same body here. There's really no reason for them to be different, and I think they look great. They're very svelte, but they still very much look like Power Rangers. Now, as far as accessories goes, this line is not like known for having tons and tons, but they do come with they do come with pretty much everything you really need. And that's kind of all that matters to me here for the most part, is that they come with the stuff you truly need. So to start with, we do get a bunch of extra hands. Right now, I've got on our Black Ranger here, I've got this sort of loose, open palm hand, and then I've got a gripping hand over here on his left. You get another one of the relaxed hands. We get another gripping hand, so you get a set of each. We get a set of fists. You get this sort of wacky style pose hand. I don't know. I'm not so sure about this one. I think the finger could be warped maybe. It looks kind of, looks a little wonky. And then you get this one in particular, which goes on his right hand to hold the power axe in a two-handed pose, like if it's being used as the cannon. So you've got the gripping hand, so you can have one hand, the left hand to grip it, and then this to sort of let it rest on. And we do get the blade blaster. I already mentioned it was on his, it was in his holster already. So this thing does transform, and I've already got it open because it's kind of a pain to open. Like if there's one issue that I have with this is that it's hard to get the blade out. I use an X-Acto knife to pop it out. There is some crazy deco on this thing. I mean, it is covered in paint. It's got a little wear and grit and grime on it. So you can have it with the, the actual blade version. Fold that down, and you've got the neutral holstered version here. And then you can actually do this number, and you've got the gun version, which, I mean, I just love the fact that you have this. Think about Lightning Collection, for example, and you're lucky to get anything other than the gun mode. So I do really like this, and again, I think the sculpt is just tremendous on this, and a ton of detail all over it. So they really did a great job, kind of outdid themselves on this thing in particular. And then, of course, being the Black Ranger, we do get the power axe. And one thing that, I should mention is that the actual core Rangers, the five Rangers teams will combine. So you can do the combination to make the big old blaster if you so choose. But as far as our Black Ranger here, we do get the power axe. One thing I'm kind of concerned about on this is that the actual handle on this thing is humongous. It does seem like it's going to stretch out one of those hands, but he holds it just fine. So, your mileage may vary. And then, of course, you would use this hand to sort of let it rest somewhere, how he's holding it, depending on what you're doing with it. So you can have it in axe mode, and it does have a bunch of like wear and tear all over it. You've got your Mastodon on there, and then you can have it in cannon mode too, which I think is pretty cool. And of course, that's more along the lines of what this is going to be for. So you can have him sort of resting. That's not oriented correctly, but I think you get the idea. So he doesn't have like a ton of stuff, but it's all the stuff you really need. Like, what more do you need than his signature weapon, the Blade Blaster, and some hands? And then for our Blue Ranger, we kind of get, well, more of the same. So to start with, we do get some extra hands. He's got his set of gripping hands on him right now, and then he just gets extra sets. He doesn't have anything special because he doesn't have some, relatively oddly shaped weapon. So you get a set of the relaxed hands. We get a set of like chopping hands. And then you get a set of the fists. So he has 8 total hands, you get 6 extra. We do, of course, get the Blade Blaster, and it's the exact same situation. So, 2 of the same thing here when it comes to talking about this pair. And then we get his signature weapon, of course, so we get his Power Lance. This is, of course, something that can be used as 2 different weapons. And then, of course, you can combine it. So it does just peg together. I do feel like I kind of don't really care for the way this actually works. I feel like it's a little spindly at the ends here when it's fully extended because of the way it's just sort of, obviously it has to go inside the handle, so it has to be smaller to do that. But I'm not very fond of the way it looks that way. I'd prefer it if it was just more like this, I think, or maybe a little bit longer. But it does look really good overall. There's a ton of detail in the blades themselves, a lot of inlay detail. You got the Triceratops here on both sides. And then, of course, there is a little bit of like a wear on it, a little bit of battle damage. Not a whole lot, not nearly as much as the Black Ranger. But it does have some serious size on it once it's all said and done. I mean, it's almost as tall as the Blue Ranger himself. So I'm not the biggest fan of how small it gets up here at the top, but it does look really good, especially when he's in a two-handed pose. So you can have this thing single-handed if you want, two-handed pose, or have it split, and then you've got the 2 collapsed, smaller versions, depending on how you're feeling on any given point in time. So yeah, overall, these guys are really fun. Like ultimately, that's what it comes down to. They're a lot of fun. I'm enjoying posing them around. They are limited in some ways, like there's no way around it. I think a lot of that is because of the spandex suits that they're wearing, likely something to do with the bodies underneath as well. But really, at the end of the day, these are awesome display pieces, and that's kind of what I got them for. I wanted to have these big Power Rangers on display somewhere, and it's working. I'm very much getting what I wanted out of these. I think the Green Ranger was a good, if not slippery slope to go down, but it's really led me to have a really cool little display when it comes to having various Rangers of this size and scale. A lot of that comes down to the fact that I just love Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, but it's cool to have these bigger representations in full soft goods on a shelf, because up until now, this was something entirely outside of the things that I would normally have ever bought. So I'm really enjoying these, whether I should have gone down this road or not. So that's going to do it for this look at the ThreeZero FigZero 1/6 scale black and blue MMPR. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.